Hi there, my name is Erica Martin and I am a sales ninja. So if you're watching this, please know that I am in a dingy hotel room in the middle of nowhere, Maine, doing a training for one of my clients, but wanted to get this out there to you so that you could start applying it and using it to increase your sales in a way that's never scummy or salesy and truly acts in the interest of your client. So I literally just wrote some steps out on a page for you to follow. It's not fancy or flashy, but it is something that truly works if you're coming from a place of good intentions and serving your client and making sure that you're finding the right fit for somebody. This is something that I typically do a full day training on. It's really in depth, but I wanted to give you the bullet points so you could start putting it into play and you could start taking action on it. So the first thing is I have a 4-step process for what we call social selling. And that is essentially getting to know the client, making sure that, because you already know the product, you already know what you're selling, and making sure that you have the right person and that you match them up with the right fit for their needs. So the average extremely successful salesperson asks 72 questions, which may seem overwhelming, but I think once we go through this, it'll really make sense to you, and you can apply this to any type of sales, to retail sales. You can apply it to coaching, to info products, and frankly, this is something that you can apply just to kind of get to know somebody and see if whatever it is that you're offering matches their needs. The key to success with this system, however, is making sure that you do what I personally call selling with integrity. Your number one goal is not to make the sale. It's to help the right person make the right decision. And therefore, if you're talking to somebody and your product or your service is not a good fit for them, it is equally important that you sell with integrity and you say, listen, if it's not the right person, that your product or service isn't the right fit, and you do your best to try and help put them in the right direction. This way you can always know that you're truly helping, and this will help you genuinely and authentically sell from the heart. And that's what does the deal, okay? So the other thing that I want to acknowledge is that sales success is really 90% enthusiasm and it's 10% strategy. If you are really passionate and enthusiastic about the product you have, that's going to take you so far, and that's going to really help you close sales that are the low-hanging fruit. If you're not passionate and you don't believe in the product and you just use these strategies, this will not work for you. And if it does, you are guaranteed to find people that are the wrong fit for you and the wrong fit for your product. And that's just going to create a lot more headaches. So if we can make an agreement together that you will sell with integrity, you will help the right person make the right decision and help the wrong person find something that is not you that's better, then we're going to move forward and this will work for you. So I'm going to go ahead and say that you're nodding yes, that you will sell with integrity. Here we go. So we start with the sales questions. This is not a script. This is not something that you say specific things and you get specific results. We're human beings making human connection. So what we'll do is we'll talk about the different types of questions to ask, which is really the order for you, and then leave it up to you to fill in the blank. So what I would like to see, what would be really helpful to you when you finish with this video, is to go through each of these types of questions and find 5 to 10 types of those questions that you can just kind of pull out of your pocket as you need them, and it helps you guide the conversation. So we'll talk about sales questions. I have a little really high quality notepad here for you. This is very exciting. Okay, so the first type of question, as you can see here, is the warm-up question. This is the type of question that is most frequently skipped. Most people that are in sales just go directly into, the talking about the product. Most people in sales, in fact, talk way too much about what they're selling and spend way too little time getting to know somebody and getting to know what somebody's needs are. How can you tell that somebody is the right fit if you can't tell what their needs are, or you haven't gotten to know them and you haven't asked questions? So the warm-up questions, in short, are questions like, hi, how are you? How did you hear about us? And depending on, your product or service, it's essentially what one would consider small talk. But really what it is just warming up the conversation, getting to know them, having them interact with you and answer your questions. If somebody doesn't interact with you during the warm-up phase, or if they're just really hardcore about, no, I just want to know how it is, how much it is, I want to know what the price is, then don't be afraid to say, you know what, in order for me to make sure that our product is the right fit for you, it's important that I get to know you and get to know what your needs are. How do we know if it's the right fit? So do you mind if I ask you a couple questions? If they say no, don't be afraid to cut off the conversation there. Don't waste your time and say, you know what, I don't know that my product or service is the best fit for you. But if they're answering your warm-up questions, then you move on to the next question, which are the qualifying questions. The worst thing ever is to have a sales conversation with somebody that takes your time, and time is money. So it's taking your time, your energy, and your money away, only to find out at the very end of the conversation that they're not qualified, or they don't have a bank account, or they don't have a credit card, or they're not truly a good fit for what you have to offer. So think about questions that qualify the person. A qualifying question could be something along the lines of, if you decide that this is right for you, would your husband or wife support your decision? That's a qualifying question. You don't want to get through the entire sales process only to find out that there's another decision maker that you're not talking to. You want to find out right away so that you can have both decision makers present when you are going through the sales process. So qualifying questions, you identify the decision maker, you find out if they meet the requirements to use the product. So for example, if it's a coaching product for female entrepreneurs and you are talking to a man, if it's designed for female entrepreneurs, he's not qualified. Or if you're selling windows to somebody and they have just updated the windows in your house or in their house, and they've just done that, like, you want to find out. So a qualifying question for that would be, when was the last time you updated the windows in your house? When was the last time you looked into making modifications to your home? Something along those lines. So qualifying questions essentially make sure that you're talking to the decision maker and it's somebody that can actually use and benefit from your product or service. Number 3 here are the personal questions. These are my favorite because in the personal questions, you find out the real reason that somebody's interested in your product or service. You get down to the heart of the matter. Most people really shy away from asking personal questions because they're afraid of being too invasive. But once again, if you're selling with integrity and you really want to help somebody, it's important that you get to know them. It's important that you get to know their deep wants, needs, and desires. If you are in an after-school or summer camp program, for example, ask parents questions about their kids. Ask if they have multiple kids. Have their kids ever done an after-school or summer camp program? If you're selling shoes, if you're selling, let's just say, shoes to women, there's an emotional connection between women and shoes. So find out what these shoes actually mean to somebody, and find out what they would do. Is there an occasion that you're looking to wear these beautiful shoes? Is there an outfit? Is it an engagement? Is it an anniversary? Is it a wedding? If you're selling, home improvement products, what vision do you have for your home? What does that mean for you and your family? If it's a security system, have they had a break-in? You're asking to find out what their pain point is. So think about personal questions and pain point. When you can pinpoint the pain point, that is what gives you the ability to really tie somebody back to the emotional reason that they're deciding to purchase your product or service. And contrary to popular belief, sales and people saying yes to purchasing someone is always an emotional decision. It's never a logical decision. There's always something that's driving it when people spend money and when they invest in things. So the personal questions is your opportunity to uncover that. And then finally, when speaking of logical, once you found out the reasons, are the technical questions. So if it's again a home install, what are the dates and times that we can do this? If you're setting an appointment, what's the best time for you? And also if you are setting an appointment with somebody, here's a strategy for that. You give them 2 days and times. Would tonight at 6 or tomorrow night at 6 be best for you? Which would be best for you? So that way they choose one. And let's face it, if those times don't work, say, great, let me check my calendar, give them 2 more times. What about this time or this time? Which is best? And that way it doesn't leave it open-ended. You're sealing the deal. Okay, so I know that was a lot of information, but this is something that you can start putting into practice right away. And then the next part of this is I want to talk about overcoming objections. I have 5 steps to overcoming objections. Now, something to acknowledge is the 70-30 principle. So the 70-30 principle means that 70% of the time, if you get an objection, it's a false objection. That objection, the false objection, simply means that you haven't built enough trust with that person 70% of the time. So this 5-step objection process will flesh out if it's the 70% of you just haven't built enough trust, or the 30% that's a legitimate objection. And the great news about a legitimate objection is it's something that you can work together as a team with your client to problem solve. You get to essentially become the consultant in helping them get what they want. So this will flesh out which of those that is. So the 1 and 2, I really like to put these 2 together in one sentence. It makes it really smooth and easy. So it's the acknowledge and agree. So, for example, let's use the example of an after-school or summer camp program. And I love that example because it's dealing with people's 2 most sensitive issues. 1 is their finances and 2 is their kids. So there's a lot of emotion tied into both of those things. So, for example, if you're selling an after-school or summer camp program, and you have this fantastic program that you're selling, and the parent goes, yeah, I'm going to have to talk to my husband. That's really expensive. So step 1 and 2. So your objection is, well, actually I gave you 2. The one objection is I have to talk to my husband. The second objection is it's really expensive. So you want to acknowledge and agree. So what I would say to that is, yeah, I totally understand. It's not a cheap program, and it's a big decision. So I understand why you would want to talk to your husband about that. So that's step 1 and 2. You acknowledge their concern, and then you agree with them. And there's a whole psychology around this that I don't have time to go into, but guaranteed if you follow this, it'll just work. So we can talk about the why a little bit later on. Then the next step, this is my favorite part. This is the most important part of this. So you acknowledge, you agree, and then step number 3 in this process is you shut up. Shut up. Don't say anything. Whoever talks first loses. Like, think of it like a game. So in this scenario that we used for this after-school summer camp program, the mom, let's just say it's the mom. The mom says, gosh, it's really expensive. I have to talk to my husband about it. Acknowledge and agree. I totally understand. It is a big investment. It's not a cheap program, and it's a big decision. I can see, why you would want to talk to your husband about that. And then from there, shut up. The first person that talks loses. It's going to be awkward. It's going to be uncomfortable. You can be nodding and smiling, or if you're on the phone, that's fine. Yeah, I totally understand. And just look at them. That uncomfortable silence will cause one of 2 things to happen. 1, they talk themselves around into it, and they're like, something like, oh gosh, but you did tell me that it's the last spot, and I don't want to miss out if it's the last spot, and I'm just, I'm just gonna register him, and then we'll go from there. We'll bring my husband in for a tour later because I just don't want to miss out. So they'll either like talk themselves around to it, or they will kind of bring up another objection. Yeah, okay, well, I guess I'll talk to my husband about it, something like that, right? Say, yeah, no, I totally understand, and then here's where you come to the next point, number 4. That's when you pull the trigger. So in the personal questions, you pinpoint the pain point. That's the trigger. That's the button. There's a reason that person is coming to you, because why? All sales are an emotional decision. So finding out what that reason is extremely important, because once you shut up, and then that person either opens up and just talks themselves into the sale, or they come up with something else and like, okay, well, I guess I'll have to talk to my husband about it. Then you pull the trigger. So for this example of after school and summer camp programs, say, I know you really wanted to find a program where your son would build confidence, and I know that last year he got bullied at his last summer camp. So, I really just want to help you find the best fit for you. So, so I really want to help you find the best fit for you. So I push the trigger. The trigger is the kid got bullied last year at summer camp. The mom doesn't want that to happen again. That's her real reason for being there, because I asked personal questions about last year's summer camp, right? So I find out what the trigger is. And then the next step that's just a natural flow is you close. That's it. So this is what it would sound like. I know that you wanted to find a program where your son wouldn't get bullied, and, where his confidence is built. And, I really feel like we can help you with that. And I want him to be in a safe environment. So why don't we just go ahead? We can reserve his spot. It's only a $30 registration fee. And then from there, we can have your husband come in. You can take a tour. But that way his spot is saved, and you don't have to worry about going to another camp where he might get bullied again, because we have a 0 tolerance policy for bullying. Do you see how natural that is? Do you see how it's not pushy, but it helps somebody that needs a little bit more trust? Because a lot of times when people come up with an objection, a sales objection, it comes from a really deep place of hurt, that they've had a bad experience. And they just want to know that they're going to make the right decision and they're not going to have a bad experience again, which is why I only teach this to people who agree to sell with integrity. Because if you sell with integrity, this is a positive persuasion that's helping the right person make the right decision. You're holding their hand. If it's done without integrity, that's what we like to call manipulation, if it's done for ill intentions. So that's why we only sell with integrity using this system. And how many times do you do this 5-step objection process, right? So then you do this as many times as you need to until you get an answer. Because if you find out it's this 30% of the time, if you find out that it is a legit something like a legit objection, then you can help them. If it's a money objection, you can ask them, would it be helpful if I shared with you some of the things that other clients just like you have done to find the money to do this? Because I know it's important to you. Would that be helpful? If you always come from a place of help, and you're trying to help them, and you're trying to serve them, and you're being a compassionate person, then you will never come off as scummy or salesy. So that's the 4 types of questions to ask in the sales process, and the 5 steps for overcoming objections. I really hope this helped, and I hope that you can take this information and implement it. And even though this is only the tip of the iceberg, it's a great place to get started. It's a great place to practice. And so my encouragement to you, my homework for you, is to go through those 4 different types of questions, the warm-up questions, the qualifying questions, the personal and the technical, and then write out 5 to 10 under each of those categories so you can just have them there. The more you can write, the better, because what it does is it creates the ability for you to be really agile in conversation and natural. It's not a script. It's not something that you have to memorize. It's not pushy or salesy. It's simply selling with integrity. So have a great day and good luck closing your sales.